The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that. And we will stop the bombings. And they have capitulated. But more importantly, we will take their word. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore.
President Trump saying this afternoon that the U.S. will stop airstrikes against those Houthi rebels in Yemen because the Houthis have promised to stop attacking U.S. ships in the Red Sea. The announcement came just hours after the Israel Defense Forces carried out an airstrike on Yemen's Sana'a airport. This is the video of the aftermath here. And they did this in an effort to cripple the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. The IDF confirming it, quote, fully disabled that airport, striking the runways, aircraft and infrastructure. The attack was in response to the Houthi strike on Israel's Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv over the weekend. President Trump set to fly to Saudi Arabia in a week. How unstable is the airspace over much of the region? Joining us now, first on Fox Business, retired Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus of the IDF. He is a former IDF spokesperson and senior fellow for the Foundation for Defensive Democracies. Jonathan, President Trump, rather confidently, you just heard, said today the Houthis don't want to be attacked anymore, so they will stop attacking U.S. ships. What are you hearing about that? Do you believe the Houthis?
Well, hello, Liz. Thank you for having me on. No, I do not believe them. And second thing is that already I hear other Houthi officials that are walking that back and contradicting what the president is saying. And third thing that I think is important is that this isn't, from an Israeli perspective, only about international shipping. This is that the Houthis have been attacking Israel directly for the better part of a year and a half, ever since Hamas' attack on Israel on October the 7th. So for the Houthis to, lay down their weapons and to, as the president said, capitulate, what that means in an Israeli perspective is stop firing at Israel and stop trying to kill Israelis.
The IDF is going after key infrastructure targets, obviously, and hit Sana'a airport and the port of Hudaydah. That was yesterday. How much does this cripple the Houthi operation?
Well, I think it has some effect, but, if we're really honest here, at the end of the day, if Israel really wants to have a meaningful impact on the situation with the Houthis and really limit their ability to terrorize Israeli civilians and to hit our national infrastructure, then either Israel needs to do a massive sustained bombing campaign against the Houthis, and that's a big undertaking. It's 1,200 miles away and many dangerous things on the way, or it needs to put boots on the ground. Those are the two options that Israel have in order to really make meaningful change and not just blow off steam and show them that they cannot continue to fire at Israel. I don't think Israel will do any of those two options, and therefore I think that this brings us so much closer to dealing with the real source of violence and instability in the region, and that is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Without direct action against the Islamic Republic, I think that they will just continue to use their proxies, whether it's Houthis, Lebanese, Gazans, or whatever, in order to cause instability in the region. And the moment that there's a price tag attached to it, then I think the Iranians will think differently.
Well, you go back to October 7th of 2023 and that horrific slaughter by, obviously, Hamas terrorists, killing 1,200 mostly Israeli, American, and foreign civilians, taking a bunch hostage. Some of those hostages are still in Gaza, and we know that it is Iran who had armed those militants. So the question becomes, boots on the ground. We, of course, heard what Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has said, and that is that they will send in boots on the ground in Gaza. They want to control the food trucks that go in through Rafah near Egypt. And tell me exactly how you think that's going to work. Because once again, then, you have Israelis in that Gaza Strip region, and who knows what might happen.
Yeah, so the situation now is that there are about 20,000 Israeli troops that are already deployed inside the Gaza Strip, and Israel has enlisted many tens of thousands more in order to prepare for a bigger offensive. Now, so far, what Hamas is doing is they're hiding underground, they're hiding in their tunnels, and they haven't come out to fight in any meaningful way. Why? Because they're waiting for, they're biding their time. That will change, I believe, the moment that the IDF will, as you said, start distributing food. Why will that be a trigger? Because that will be a real threat to Hamas's governance, and that will undermine the control that Hamas has over the population. And then we will see them go back to fighting, and that will cause a significant escalation. You know, I think there are two parts that will change the future of the Gaza Strip. One is when Israel will go in and start actually pushing Hamas aside and giving food to the people there and cutting that supply from Hamas. And the second thing that could be an absolute regional game changer would be if the Egyptians would open the gate at Rafah and allow Palestinians out. That would pull the rug underneath the feet of Hamas, and that would end the war, I think, pretty quickly.
Well, we're looking at video of how it worked with Hamas in charge. People attacking or rushing because they were starving. They were very hungry, and they're rushing to these food trucks, which were overwhelmed. Gunshots in some cases came through. I mean, got to do something. The Israelis could handle this better.
Yes, the Israelis, together with international organizations and perhaps with private security operations, could, and I think will, handle it better. And the most important thing is that the aid won't be weaponized by Hamas in order to continue the war.
Okay. And finally, the President of the United States is supposed to fly to the region, obviously next week, Saudi Arabia first, and some of the other countries there. I mean, there are still missiles flying. Is it safe? Is the airspace safe for Air Force One?
I believe it is. That isn't my area of expertise, but I know that there are significant countermeasures and safeties in place for that occurrence. And Saudi airspace hasn't been very challenged. Yes, we've had it above Israel, but Saudi airspace hasn't been very challenged, and I'm sure that the President will be safe, and I wish him best success in this strategic and very important visit, and I hope that it will bring peace, prosperity through strength to the region, to the U.S. and Israel.
Well, he did say today there would be a major announcement. We are looking forward to that. Could it be something involving the Abraham Accords, maybe another country in the Middle East joining them to recognize Israel? Jonathan, thank you very much.